Thank you, Cam. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for asking me to be your first speaker. My name's Imran. I'm Head of Public Engagement here at Wellcome. I've been here for about a year and a half, and I wanted to first welcome you to this fantastic place. For those of you who don't know Wellcome, we're a foundation that's committed to improving health by helping great ideas thrive. And many of you will know that that's mainly done by funding research, but it's not all we do. We fund research, but we also back innovation. We spark debates, we nurture communities, and we engage the public. We see it as a really multifaceted mission. And hopefully the more you know about Wellcome, the more of that mission you'll get to see. One of my favourite things about working at Wellcome is that we're independent, both financially and politically. It means we can think long-term. It means we can take risks. It means we can go beyond the status quo and work with partners and communities and try new ideas that perhaps other people can't. And obviously, one of the things that's really great about having you here today, and I love the fact this is called a festival, by the way, rather than a conference. I think it really captures the spirit of what you're trying to do, is that, of course, neglected tropical diseases are a huge issue for Wellcome as well, whether that's today in terms of the research and the work that we fund, or whether it's going all the way back to our foundation and our endower, Henry Wellcome. He was the person that gave us a big part of our mission, and obviously he cared hugely about health around the world, not just in the developed north and west. So the focus you have is absolutely critical. And I think it mirrors the one that we have on health for one key reason, and that is that both of us as organisations care deeply about science and research and academia. But I think neither of us care about them in their own right. We care about them because they help make the world and make society a better place. And that might be an obvious distinction to draw, but I think it's an important one too. It doesn't mean that we can't still see science and research and knowledge and ideas as inherent goods in and of themselves. But the thing that's bringing us together today for this festival is not that. It's the idea that we want to make the world a better place because we care about the world and what we care about society. And I think there's an interesting tension there, and it's a huge part of what drives my work in public engagement at Wellcome, this idea that we need to make sure that the work that Wellcome's doing is responsive and engaged with publics, with societies, with communities. And the tension is that I think sometimes when we communicate science, communicate research, we forget about the role of emotion. And I think that's sometimes inevitable. If you think about the way we're all trained, we're trained to deal in facts, in evidence, in arguments, in data. And whether it's through publication or debate or the way people are promoted or the broader marketplace of ideas, it's that knowledge and data which helps you get ahead. And that means that it's the water we swim in. And it means it can get very frustrating when we look out at society and see that value system isn't necessarily shared by other people. We might see people making their decisions not based on evidence and data and facts, and whether those decisions are about things like vaccinations, whether it's about climate change, whether it's about GM. We see them making their decisions based on emotion, gut feeling, cultural zeitgeist, all things which don't really form part of how we think the world should change and move and progress. And since that rejection of our values, if I can put it so strongly, challenges the basis of science, and since we obviously perhaps might see science and technology and engineering as the things which underpin our modern world, we might see that way of looking at the world, that gut feeling-led way of looking at the world, as hypocritical. How can you simultaneously enjoy the things that science and research have done, the modern world they've created, while also not playing ball and not using the same value system to make your own decisions? That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that maybe we're the hypocrites. So let me convince you of what I mean by that. But how else would you describe our behaviour? We pride ourselves on observation, on collecting data and the scientific method. All those things would tell us that we would be mistaken in discounting the importance of emotion and feeling and how people live their lives, and even how they think about science. And yet we might carry on anyway, discounting the role of emotion and feeling. So I want to leave you with a suggestion as you kind of go through your day and have your debates and talk about how you communicate, with the suggestion that although everything in our training, everything that's led us to this point, might lead us to prioritise facts, evidence and data, the thing that actually brings you here today is something different. It's feeling, it's caring, it's knowing that the work you're doing in your careers, the work you're doing as a society, is fundamentally because you care, not because of what you know. And the fact that you care about neglected tropical diseases, you care about making a difference around the world, at least for now, it's difficult to boil those down to a scientifically verifiable reason to care, and yet you care anyway. Of course, it's not an either-or. It's not about saying you can either deal in facts and data or you can deal in emotion and feeling. There's a spectrum between the two. But sometimes I worry that we have the balance wrong, that because of our training, because of the way we have been conditioned to communicate, we automatically fall into the facts and evidence only, and we forget about the emotion and feeling, because it's not the currency of science. And what I'd leave you with is a suggestion that it is the currency of society. Whether it's the animal spirits of the economy, whether it's the social capital of politics, whether it's simply the relationships that define the communities that we care about and that we work with, how people think and feel is just as important as what we might measure and what we might know. It's part of what underpins this building. If you go and look at the exhibitions upstairs, you'll hopefully see Wellcome Collection's mission coming through, which is a mission to challenge the way people think and feel about health and science, not just how to get them to know more and understand more. And it's something that I've noticed during my career as well. I've always operated in the boundary between science and society, although I had a scientific training. I've worked in policy, I've worked in journalism, and I've worked at foundations like this one. And I think when I started on that journey, I often felt that if my role was to convince a particular politician or a particular journalist just how important science and engineering and research were, all I had to do was put the evidence in front of them, show them how important it was in terms of the creation of the modern world or the creation of the economy. And if they could just understand, maybe they would get it. And of course, what I found was that often you're dealing with highly intelligent, very well-versed people who frankly know much more than you do about the context in which science sits. And the barrier to them perhaps backing science more, if that's what we want them to do, is not a lack of knowledge. It's the context in which they operate. Because there's no scientific experiment in the world which, for instance, would tell you, do you invest more in your science base, or do you put it in healthcare, or do you put it in the judicial system, or do you put it in transport? These are all things which we have to not just simply resort to evidence and fact on. Of course, that's part of the mix, but we also have to make the emotional case. So, that's my message to you. As you're going through the rest of your day, as you're thinking about communication, I'd urge you to think about not just what to communicate and what knowledge to convey, but how do you communicate? Why do you communicate? Why do you care about what you do? What is it that really drives you? If you're talking to someone who's never thought about your research before, never thought about your work before, is the most important thing for them to know the particular detail about the thing you discovered, or is the most important thing to know why you're doing it and why you care so much and why you've devoted your career to it? So, welcome again. I hope you enjoy your day. I hope you enjoy this festival. Congratulations to Marianne and Cam for putting it on. And thank you for having me as your first speaker.